Hello, everyone. I'm the Bodacious Cowboy with my co-host, Kristy. Are you ready for a special edition of the Storytelling Chronicles? We are. Let's go.
Look out! Pop, it's showtime. Showtime. Guess who's back again? Oh, they don't know. Gone time. I bet they know as soon as we walk in. Showed up. I'm wearing Cuban links. Yeah. Designer mix. Yeah. Inglewood's finest shoes. Whoop, whoop. Don't look too hard, might hurt yourself. Known to give the color red the blues.
Hello, everyone. I am the Bodacious Cowboy. It is Monday, the 15th. Today's podcast is brought to you by Freight Validate, TAFs, and Thai TMS. We thank our sponsors so much for believing in our narrative and supporting our efforts. So without further ado, we have a great guest today, Nisrine Masri. Hello, Nisrine. How are you?
Doing good. I don't know. We can hear you.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Listen,
novices, so that's okay.
Somehow I muted myself. But hello, everyone.
Listen, this is something I learned on another podcast that I do. If people don't unmute, you got to take a drink for when you don't unmute. So let's drink to that.
There we go.
Awesome. Well, everyone, let me tell you a little bit about our special guest today, Nisrine Masri. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did. Yeah.
Awesome. With over 20 years of experience in the moving industry, she's the driving force behind Movers Dispatch Board, leveraging her extensive knowledge and insights. Masri has introduced an innovative solution exclusively designed for professionals in the moving industry. In 2003, after graduating with a bachelor's degree in business administration with a concentration in business management from the University of Texas at Arlington, Nisrine began her entrepreneurial journey by establishing her own moving company. Through perseverance and dedication, she transformed it into the thriving business it has become today. This firsthand experience of building a successful moving company gives Nisrine a unique perspective and deep empathy for the challenges faced by professionals in this industry. It is invaluable experience that fuels her passion to create innovative solutions like Movers Dispatch Board, empowering others to achieve their own success in the moving industry. So welcome, Nisrine. Yeah. So why don't you, I know I just read a little bit about your bio, but why don't you run us through a little bit of your history, how you got started in transportation in general, and tell us a little bit about your business and yourself.
Yes, absolutely. So initially by trade, sales has been my, what I'm really good at. And I started off doing sales for a construction company. This was way back 25 years ago. And I worked for them for a little bit and then decided that I was going to get into trucking. So I thought this would be really interesting. And I worked for a third-party logistics company, wanted to do sales for them, but I didn't have any experience under my belt. So they put me into a customer service position. Did that for a little bit and then slowly started growing within that company into doing international shipping. And then I moved over into their rating department and then decided that I was going to start my own company with my husband at the time. He was working for another moving company and thought, hey, let's just start our own. You've got some experience in trucking. You're a great salesperson. Let's just start our own moving company. I said, okay. I didn't know anything about household goods because I'd been doing freight for several years before that. So that's how Condor started. We got into, literally started from an extra bedroom in our house at the time. And did, sales and dispatching, customer service, accounting, you name it. I was every department. So, and he did all of the moves. And I did this, part-time until it got big enough to where I went to him one day and I said, hey, if you really want me to take this to the next level, I've got to quit my job. I've got to do this full time. So he said, okay. And I think that was probably about maybe 6 to 8 months of me doing it, half and half part-time, and did that. And now 21 years later, this is where I'm at today. We've been in business for 21 years. which is super impressive because I can still remember, it starting from really nothing. Every policy, every procedure, every operational thing that we have put in place was put in place by myself and my partner. I'm more on the administrative side of things, of like running the actual, compliance, HR, marketing, sales, that end of the business. He runs the operational side of like the trucks part of it and the crews. But it's been an amazing journey seeing something that was created from really nothing into where it's at today. And then about 2 years ago, I started the development of Movers Dispatch Board, which is also in the moving industry, on the software side of things, web-based load board for the moving industry. There's a lot of load boards out there right now for freight, but there's really nothing that's targeting the moving industry. And that's something we didn't have. So moving companies really, without just the old traditional pick up the phone, oh, I know this guy, or I know this guy, or let me Google a company out in California, see if I can get some helpers or see if I can find some loads. There's really no load board or no way of networking. And that was the reason why I developed the Movers Dispatch Board. So still, in the same industry, something that I knew really well on the operational side of it. So I didn't really get too far away from that. It was more on the technology. So I know some coding, but I'm not a coder. So obviously I had to set up a team, and I have a team of developers who do all the developing. And for me, I came up with all of the architecture and the structure of how it would flow, what the user experience would be. Who are my users? I know the users firsthand because they're people I work with on a day-to-day basis. So I know how computer savvy they are, if it's too complicated, they're not going to use it. And so, so that was very helpful for me. So now I run both companies. So about half my day is spent doing Movers Dispatch, half my day is spent doing Condor, and a lot of after hours stuff too. So I get home and there's more work to be done behind the scenes.
Welcome to logistics.
Yeah, no matter what kind of logistics.
I know. I mean, that's like the commonality, right? 24/7, 365, you're in it, right? You got to be in it to win it. Got a quick question for you. Do your customers have access to your TMS on that load board, or is it strictly internal?
So our customers would have access to the load board, but it's a B2B platform. So when you refer to our customers, are you meaning like the Condor customers or the Movers Dispatch Board customers? Which ones?
Either or.
Okay, so with Movers Dispatch Board, it's B2B strictly. So it's going to be, moving company A is based out of California, and they're going to work with moving company B out of Florida, and they're going to interline loads together.
Gotcha.
So if let's say the company out of California had a load that's 200 cubic feet, 1,400 pounds, and they wanted to get it to Florida, but didn't have a full trailer, it's LTL for the freight world. What they would do is they would interline with this company out of Florida if they were going back. So that way, when they were deadheading, they didn't deadhead home empty. They had a full load.
Gotcha.
So as far as that goes, they obviously would have access to it.
Right. And let me ask you this. 21 years ago, back in 2003, was much different than it is today. How receptive were your customers to you, being that you own the business, you're running it? What kind of difficulties and barriers or even obstacles that you had to go through, jump over in order to be successful? What happened during that time?
Well, I think for me, I've always built a really good rapport with my clients. So building trust has never really been an issue. I come across as I am trustworthy, so it's never really been a huge challenge for me to get in with a situation of try to sell, whether it be Condor or Movers Dispatch Board, and actually be able to make a sale, because I am very straightforward. I'm very honest. If I can't do something, I'm going to let you know, hey, we can't do this. Right. So I'm not going to overpromise for the business. And for example, on the Condor side of things, people have budgets, and when I know someone's moving and they can't afford what we want to charge, I'm going to let them know. I'd rather not have their business and let them go somewhere else and find the business, the price that they need, just so I'm not overextending my client. So I've always been very, very straightforward in my sales. And I think people have always appreciated me for that. With Movers Dispatch Board, for example, I've made that very user-friendly, no long-term contracts. We've implemented to where now people can access the load board without even having to pay a subscription, because I don't want people to sign up if they actually can't benefit. So, because what will happen is they will cancel and then I'll lose their business and it'll be a lot harder to get them back and bring them back. So we have a free subscription model where they can still kind of view the loads, but once it starts making sense to their lanes or where they're running, then they can go on a paid plan. So I feel like that's always important when you're doing business, is that the client feel like they have some flexibility and they can really trust you, that you're not just a salesperson.
So
Go ahead.
I was just going to add to what you were saying. So I think part of what Jeff is trying to pull out of you too is, did you have issues because of being a woman back then, starting the business, and men wanting to work with you?
Absolutely. I was a 23-year-old girl.
Right.
And I'm in an industry full of men. I was cute back then. I'm not cute today. So now I'm 20 plus years older. Yes, absolutely. Because they would come into the office and they saw this little 24, 23-year-old girl trying to, say that she was the business owner. And so there are a lot of times I didn't tell people I was the owner, because I didn't want them to, stereotype or think, oh, here's this young girl saying that she's the owner. But I knew what I was capable of. Which I'll get into this a little bit later about like who was my female mentor and how I believe I am the woman I am today. And I'll tell you all about her later. But absolutely, there's always been challenges with that. I've been challenged with truck drivers coming in trying to tell me that the capacity, the cubic footage that the load took was a lot more than what it should have been. And, and I had to get it out there and say, no, it's not. I know how to figure out cubic feet and all. So yes, absolutely. There's been challenges, but I think the biggest thing is that when you empower yourself as a woman and you have the education and you have the knowledge behind you, once you start speaking to people, they start respecting you once they know that you're not just a female or a cute face or whatever you may be stereotyped as. So I think that's really important.
How did you feel? I mean, how did you feel when you had derogatory statements and guys out there who dominate the field at that time? How did you feel inside? And the reason I'm asking you this is that there's a lot of women out there who are starting their own business. What kind of pointers can you give them to get over those feelings, to drive forward, to be successful, and just keep the foot on the gas? I mean, because it's tough.
Well, I think the biggest thing is to believe in yourself, right? That's the most important thing. If you don't believe in yourself, people won't believe in you. So I think that's really important, is that when you are facing a situation where you're challenged and you're put to the test, whether it may be just something small through life, through your career or whatever it may be, is that you be confident and that you believe in your capabilities and what you're capable of doing. Because in life, you're going to be challenged by all kinds of people. You're going to be challenged by other women. You're going to be challenged by men. You're going to be challenged by younger, older. You're going to be challenged by a lot of things. So I think if you really believe in yourself and know that you're capable and you don't give up, that's the foundation of success. The minute you give up and start not believing in yourself, I think that's when people start seeing failures. And it's kind of funny because it's not in a career sense, but my son, for example, was playing basketball, and it was actually post-COVID, and he was on the team and he wasn't doing so well. And I looked at him after the game and I said, hey, how did you feel during the game? And he said, he didn't play as well. And I said, well, I have to tell you one thing I noticed on the court. And he said, what? I said, you're not confident. You're not confident in your moves. You're not confident in your plays. I can see it. I can see that you're not confident in what you're doing. And the reason why I feel that that's important is, as a leader, whether you're going to lead women or you're going to lead men, when your leader is not confident, you can't follow. So
Right.
as if you're trying to be a leader, whatever gender you are, you have to be confident, because no one's going to listen to you if you're not sure of yourself.
Yeah, I think that's a huge point that you're making there, because I think that's the same issue I had early on, being young like you as well, not having the confidence that I knew as much as I really did, being afraid of what people were going to say when I did open my mouth because they've been around longer than me. But once you get over that and you really understand how important that is to have that confidence in yourself, you're absolutely right. It changes everything for sure. So with that being said, what do you think the phrase empowered women mean to you, or empowering women? And how do you try to live that daily?
Well, I think empowering women means that you are given the resource. Things shouldn't be handed to you because you're a woman or a man.
Yeah.
That's the key, number one. And I think sometimes people kind of get carried away with, should we just be handed things because you're a minority or you're a female or you're this or that? I think empowering any, whether it be women or men or whoever, any minority. I think having the right resources and the knowledge is really important. So, knowing that you have the tools for success and maximizing that. There's a lot of mentorship programs out there that help women. My biggest mentor was my mother, and I'll tell you all about her later. Um, but having and using every tool and resource that you have, and even having support. There's a lot of men out there that support empowering women and helping women succeed. I can think of a lot of men that have helped me in my career, even till today, that support me and want to see me succeed and are always, giving me tools. There's probably about 4 men that I know that I have met through my life that I look up to, because they're not in the trucking, they're not in logistics, they're in other career. They have, completely different careers, but I've watched them and I've seen them persevere and grow their careers. And it's amazing. I look at them and I look up to them. And so I use a lot of skills and look at other people to kind of empower myself. And I think that's really important, just like the knowledge and education and maximizing the support that's out there, because there's a lot of support out there that help women. I had a lady call me 2 weeks ago, and she's a dispatcher for freight. And she called and said, I know this sounds really weird, but I just signed up to your load board. We do household goods. We don't do freight. But I'm trying to get into the industry. And she's kind of starting off and wanted to kind of pick my brain. And she said, I would be willing to pay you. I kind of laughed at it, but I said, absolutely not. I won't take your money. I said, why don't we set up a call? I can give you about 30 minutes to an hour of my time and ask me whatever questions you have. I know mostly about household goods. I know some about freight, but my specialty is household goods. So you can call me and I'll be more than happy to help you, free of charge. I'm not going to take your money. Here's someone calling me saying, can you help me? And I said, absolutely. So I love doing things like that whenever I can help. And that makes me feel empowered as a woman. When someone asks me for help and I'm willing to do it, I will help anyone. So when I can.
I love that last statement you just said. It makes you feel empowered as a woman to help others. And whether that's a man or a woman, I mean, I totally agree with you 100%. And giving your time, I think, is so important for all of us to give back, to help uplift everyone, help with confidence, whatever you can, because I want to see everyone successful, and I'm sure you do as well. So I think that's a great point that you brought up.
Well, as a leader, you want the people around you to succeed. So
Right.
even if it's your own employees, why wouldn't you want your employees to succeed? Because when they succeed, you succeed as a leader, because now they have, met their goals and they have done better for themselves, which ultimately is a reflection of you and your company. So
Right. And I have an example briefly too. So I do a lot of mentoring as well. And maybe it's not so much structured as some mentors would be, but I actually had mentored a young woman for a few years, and she currently now works for me, which I think is awesome because you just got to that point where you build that relationship and then they want to come work with you or do something with you in that aspect too. So I think that's important for that as well.
It's nice when other women come to you and tell you they look up to you. And I get that, and not to, fluff my feathers, but when other women tell me that, and people that I know or people who have met me and tell me that they look up to me, it's empowering. It feels really good. And then it makes me want to give back because I know at least I'm doing something right. So
exactly.
Right. And I feel the same way. I've empowered women. It's not about titles. Titles are meaningless. It's about giving them that knowledge, that experience that's going to help them level up to whatever they want to do. But you have to listen with intent. I say it all the time. That's a big missing part about listening, is actually listening and understanding what is being said and then to be understood. And if you have the ability as a leader to do that, your employees are going to rise, no matter if they're female or if they're male. But you have to get in the trenches. You can't sit in your office and just have them come to you. You actually, as a leader, need to go to them to feel the pulse of your office, to see what's going on, what's not working, what's working, who's upset, who's not upset, And it really is all about that, giving back. I had the same opportunity when people reached out to me, and I wasn't going to charge them because they were in a position, not a very good position, and they wanted to learn. And I love giving back. So I'm right with you. Definitely.
It's important to give back because I can remember being in situations where people have helped me. And even as a leader today, I have people that I look up to, and that still, that somewhat, like I said earlier, they don't really like mentor me, but I talk business with, and I get advice and I get feedback, and their careers are completely different than mine.
Yeah. And I think that's the cool thing though, no matter what industry you're in, like business is business at the end of the day. And we all have a lot of the same challenges. So I think having those people to bounce those ideas off of is great.
Absolutely.
So you're a little bit different. Like we talk about freight a lot, right? And you're in the household goods. So curious, how many men to women do you have working for you? And then say your clients, are you mostly working with men and women? And why do you feel that's the type of industry you're in with the household goods? I can't even talk today. Why do you feel that that's a good area for women to come into as well?
Absolutely. So as far as our crews and drivers, they're predominantly male.
Okay.
It just seems that, not that we wouldn't hire females, but it's been predominantly men who have applied for these positions and taken the driver roles on and the labor roles. Our industry is very labor intensive. Not to say that a woman couldn't do it. It can absolutely be done. Sure. But you're talking about, loading, wrapping, disassembling furniture, where with freight, it's dock to dock. It's a little easier. It's not as labor intensive. We've got men who don't even want this job. It's hard. And we're in Texas. So imagine the summer heat, it's 100 plus outside, and you're having to move people, and you're moving big, bulky furniture in and out of houses. It's a very labor intensive, hot, backache job. It's just not a fun job. So that position's always been very hard to recruit. Drivers typically want to go to freight because it's no touch. It's dock to dock, hook up and detach, and there you go, you're done, so it's been hard, but obviously there's still men who want to do the job. And like I said, we would hire women to do the job too. Our office is predominantly all female.
Okay.
So we are predominantly all female as far as like customer service, marketing, accounting. We're mostly made up of females in the office. So I would say it's a good split between male to female. But, I always tend to hire who's most qualified. Whether you're a man, a woman, I will empower, and I'm all about empowering women 100%. I'm a female myself. I'm going to support women, but I'm not going to just hire someone just because of their gender. I'm going to hire the most qualified person, and I'm going to treat them equally. I believe that I'm a strong supporter of the most qualified gets the job, but I will always support women as a woman. And I feel like in some situations we have, we're a little bit stereotyped in some, occupations, careers, in some places. But that's been my role as a business owner, is I've always tried to hire the most qualified for the position, who I felt would be the best fit for the position.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
you have assets?
As far as trucks?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I didn't know that. And how does your drivers get along with a female dominant office? Any kind of disparity there or anything like that?
As far as our employees here, obviously with the two companies, when I jump back to Condor, our drivers have always been very respectful. The only time I've had issues with drivers, they were typically drivers that came in from another company that we were interlining loads with or something. And that's probably where we've gotten the hey, you've got more cubes. But as far as our actual employees, we have a really good culture. And we've been around for a long time. And so I think people understand when they come to work for me, they're coming to work for a woman. So, I haven't really had any major issues as far as like the culture here in the office, as far as, men not being respectful, vice versa, but.
Very cool. And I want to bring up briefly, a friend of mine is a mover. He works for a company here locally in Pittsburgh, so he moves people, and he happened to move Russell Wilson, who's coming to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers this past weekend. Oh. Yeah, he was sending us pictures, probably not allowed, but was definitely sending us pictures.
Yeah, we know.
yeah. But the thing is, he helped us as well. And like, you are right, though. That's probably definitely very male dominated, though, because it's very tough work. It's hard to move and pick up that heavy furniture and whatnot. So
it's very labor intensive. It's a very hard job. And it's, like I said, it's even hard to just recruit men to do the job. So
right.
Women do really great as packers, though, as far as like packing and driving too. So, but the not to say that they wouldn't do, but I can, as long as I've been around, and as far as drivers that I've come across that were female in 21 years, I have seen 2 female drivers and 1 mover that I worked with.
Wow.
And that's it.
Yeah, because one of the questions I was going to ask is that if you have a female driver, I'm sure depending upon if it's a full load with the lift gate, all wrapped and packed and you name it, do you hire lumpers as well?
Do we hire who?
Lumpers.
What is a lumper?
A lumper is somebody that will meet you at a site to help offload the goods.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
In the freight world.
Yes. Okay. In the freight world.
What do you call that? What do you call them? In movers? I mean, what? I mean, that's
probably just a helper.
Yes, they are just helpers. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So it varies on, sometimes on our trucks we'll run like a two man, and they'll pick up an extra man somewhere else, wherever the destination where they're going to. For all of the way we operate with Condors, we bring everything's brought into our terminal, either here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area or in Houston, and then we reload onto a semi and get it to where it's going, unless it's a live load where we load and take out to destination on the same truck. Probably not the same day, because with loading, it could take, if you're loading a semi, it could take a full day to load up a semi of household goods.
Yep.
You've got to wrap the furniture, disassemble the beds, disassemble the furniture and stuff like that. Where with freight, it's like, okay, you back up to a dock, you clip your full one and you go. So
well,
it makes life a lot easier.
Yeah. You know what? It's pretty much white glove delivery.
It is.
Yeah.
That's exactly, because you're bringing it into the house, going up the stairs, you're removing the dunnage, you're taking it back to the van, you're stacking up, you're folding. I mean, it's constant. You're constantly moving. So I can see the issue with having a female in there. But when you do see females, I was just curious, when you do get the helpers, I'll use the moving term, to help out a female, how they would interact, or what you would do in a situation like that to prevent that from happening if there was any kind of, discussion that shouldn't be held?
Well, I mean, if there's a woman out there doing it, they probably won't get a lot of, frowns from the men, because you have to be pretty tough to do that job. That's a lot of lifting and working.
Yeah.
It's very labor intensive. So obviously they'd be capable of, being put out there and not being, not get hurt. But like I said, not to say there's a lot of movers out there though, like other than Condor, that do have female helpers. But like I said, I would say the percentage ratio is like 10% maybe female out there, and I've only come across a few.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you made a good point. Like the ones that probably could do it definitely can hold their weight with anything in regards to having some issues with men probably, while they're working. So
I'm not going to mess with her if she's out there doing that
right.
job.
Exactly. Like
I was about to say that some of them you wouldn't want to mess with. I mean,
yeah.
So you have an interesting setup, but I guess what would be some advice you could give our audience about what steps organizations can take to create a more inclusive and supportive environment within their companies?
Well, I think having mentorship programs, I think that's a real big one, because I think that having a mentor to look up to and having someone kind of showing you the ropes is always very helpful. I've had some of my daughters, she's a senior in high school, who some of those kids have asked me to intern for me, because they're always hearing about different business things. They come over and I talk business to them, which may be boring for them, but right. I do. But I think that's important, is to have something like that set up, to have we don't have a formal, because we're kind of small as far as Condor goes. So we don't have like a formal mentorship program, but I kind of just casually do it, like you mentioned earlier. But I think that to me would be very beneficial, because it's one-on-one, it's real. And I think you get the first hand from someone who's actually in a role position and can kind of learn the ropes from someone who's doing, in a female leadership position.
Yeah, no, I think those are really good points. Well, with that being said, go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, so we want to definitely talk about our sponsors. We appreciate them. We have Ty, who is a brand new sponsor. We appreciate them coming on board, like I said earlier, supporting our narrative and what we're trying to achieve here. So please, Kristy, let's start off with the first one. We have a couple.
All right. Well, since Ty is our new one this week, let's start off with them. So Ty TMS provides freight brokers with an all-in-one platform for quoting, booking, and tracking shipments. Ty automates your LTL shipping process and provides full truckload brokers with a centralized platform for sourcing load coverage. We simplify your workflow so you can manage all your current shipments in one page, empowering your staff with a fast, efficient process built for speed and scalability. Our next sponsor is TAFS. TAFS specializes in purchasing accounts receivables from small and medium-sized transportation companies, helping them boost profits and increase cash flow. With a focus on exceptional client service, TAFS has risen to become a leader in the transportation factoring industry. Ready to elevate your company's financial success? Contact TAFS today at tafs.com.
Trucking excellence meets unparalleled service. Enjoy exclusive benefits like our fantastic tire discounts. Need cash fast? Try our 1-hour advances. Plus, we're here for you 365 days a year. Need loads? We have a pro dispatch service. This is why TAFS was recognized as the top factoring company in 2023. You'll benefit from strategic partnerships for enhanced operations. Access business loans and manage your finances easily with our client portal, F2 Fuel Card, and mobile app. At TAFS Factoring, we're more than just a factoring company. We're your partner in success. Contact us today to see how we can help your trucking business thrive.
Our next one that we appreciate is Freight Validate. Freight Validate, the ultimate identity and compliance verification system for the logistics industry. Freight Validate empowers shippers, brokers, carriers, and much more, ensuring compliance and regulations and mitigate fraud risk. With Freight Validate, you can easily verify entities' compliance status and identify potential threats within minutes. Don't risk your business with unverified carriers or brokers. Choose Freight Validate for peace of mind. Learn more at freightvalidate.com and start your verification process today.
Motor carriers depend on Freight Validate to stop fraud, but they can't do it alone.
Shippers must verify every carrier that comes in to pick up a load.
Hey Siri, check Freight Validate.
Sure, what's the MC number?
123127.
The company you can rent ME LLC is a carrier and cannot be completely validated at freightvalidate.com. The platform is not able to verify information obtained in federal, state, or public sources in regard to identity, risk assessment, or compliance history with 100% certainty. Please follow company protocols for additional safety and compliance vetting. For more information, please go to freightvalidate.com.
Fly-by-night freight brokers, how can I help you?
Mr. Broker, why did you send me this carrier? They are not validated on Freight Validate. Please do not send me any carrier that is not validated on Freight Validate. If you are not using Freight Validate, I suggest you start. I'm sorry, we cannot load you. Your company does not meet our compliance standards. Please call your dispatcher for more information.
Fraud starts with fraud. It ends with Freight Validate.
Yeah, so thank you again to all of our sponsors, Freight Validate, TAFS, and Thai TMS for sponsoring our show.
Yeah, awesome stuff. We truly appreciate it. So going back into our discussion, you mentioned earlier, I think mentors is a huge part, I think, that leaders like us need to not only give back, but have ourselves. So can you speak to us about who your mentors were in your career and why is that important?
Absolutely. So early on, my first mentor was my mother. And let me tell you, she is the hardest working person that I know. So, and funny story is she works for me today, but I grew up working for her.
Oh, that's interesting.
Wow.
So both my parents are entrepreneurs, and growing up, I worked for my mother, and she was in the bridal business. So she sold like wedding gowns and bridesmaid dresses, like every little girl's dream to work in a place like that growing up. So, but let me tell you, it was a hard job because my mom was very, very strict. You had to be at work after school. So after I left school, that's where we had to go. We had to pick a job. We either worked for my mom or my dad, but we worked for, most of us, we would typically work for her. So we would go work for her, and you were working until it was time to close shop. You were there. So it was very, very, she taught me how to bookkeep, doing the books. She trusted me. And I don't know if I would ever trust my high school children to run my business, but she did. She left us one year and went back overseas to visit her family and had me run her shop. I thought, oh my gosh, here I was, this like 16, 17-year-old running her business. But she did. She trusted me enough to like leave me to run the shop and, you know, do her books and do all of that. And that, seeing her, and I'm going to tell you why she was my mentor, because when we moved to the States, I'm Lebanese, and we moved here back in the early 80s. And we moved here, lived in a 1-bedroom apartment with my mom. Mm-hmm. And my mom went from like babysitting when she first got here as a job into owning her own business. And I saw the hard work and dedication that she put into hours and hours to make sure that we had the lifestyle that she wanted to give us, her and my dad. And seeing her, leave her country and leave where she came from to like nothing, basically, and work so hard. And the three of us, I have 2 sisters, are super successful, my sisters as well. And just seeing her train us to be the hard workers and knowing that if we just never gave up and worked hard and learned those skills at an early age, really put me in the place where I am today. So I really have her to thank for my hard work and dedication. Sometimes I wish I was lazy, but I'm not, but that was instilled into me from being a young girl, is to be an entrepreneur and to build something and not to just settle for anything than the best. And I think when you have that, kind of growing up and you have that mindset, and that's why I also know, like, you don't have to have a whole lot to become an entrepreneur or to start, whether you want to own your own business or whatever it is you're trying to climb the corporate ladder, whatever you're trying to do, you can build that from just hard work and dedication and really like having a set goal and working towards your goal. So I'm a firm believer of hard work. Eventually it will pay off. If you've got your mind in the right place and you work hard for your goals, you will achieve them. Like, nothing can stop you. But if you're just going to sit around and not work hard for what you want, no one's going to hand you anything, So, and that's always been my goal to success. Is hard. My hard work has paid off. I can go home and watch TV all night long and just do nothing, but I probably won't get to where I want. And that's super important, is you have to put in the extra hours. It's not an 8-hour day. I think you both know that.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. It's a choice. And when I spoke this past weekend, it's interesting because my father was my mentor, but I also say it in a way that, like, I got my work ethic from him, but I'm like, he also taught me what not to do. Like,
yeah.
just by watching him lead, So I think it's interesting because a lot of people don't have that anymore. Jeff and I have talked about this too. Yeah. That work ethic, I think a lot of us have now, like at our age level, like you just don't see that sometimes in the younger generation. And it's not that, like, we're not as parents sending that down to our children, but it's kind of like what happened, because you should just see the difference. So it's interesting.
Yeah, you know what? Just to follow up on that, when we were starting, and especially when I started, we knew what the word collaboration meant. Whether it was a collaboration between men and women, or your position in carriers or hierarchies, it didn't matter. That's how you built success on it. Now you hear that word constantly all the time about collaboration, and I'm glad that the younger generation is using that word and using it wisely and making things work a lot more efficient and effective by using that word. So that's good. But what we want to continue doing is being that mentor and helping the younger folks to understand. And I say this all the time, and Kristy and I have talked about it. If you're not careful, history will repeat itself. This industry is evolving quicker than it did back when I started, and it's going to keep on evolving. If you're not learning every single day, you're going to get lost and you're going to get misplaced. So what we're trying to do is to help these people to understand that if you're not learning every single day, you're not moving forward.
Absolutely. And I think too, with like technology, where things are today is completely different than where we were when, I started my company 21 years ago. So the technology is so different. And if you're not innovative and constantly changing the way that you operate and you do your business, you'll fall back and you'll be set back. So I think that's really important, is that you understand that as a business owner, you're always having to change. You always have to be innovative. And for example, right now, I love AI. AI has been my best friend. So anytime I can use it to help me and getting my tasks done, and I optimize and I use it, but just even, simple things, your day-to-day calendars and, getting your stuff together, just using all the technology that's out there to be able to efficiently run your business and run your own schedule and run things is so much better than where we were 20 years ago. It was like archaic.
Yeah, well, we didn't grow up with social
That's an
media.
understatement.
I feel like none of us grew up with social media. A cell phone didn't even exist until I was 18. Yeah. So now my 9-year-old, well, he's 13 now, but he was 9 when he got his first cell phone, and it's just like crazy to see how we have evolved.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, so the funniest for me is when I tell my kids, when we moved from overseas to the US and we would try to call my grandparents in Lebanon, we would have to call the operator to put the call through.
Mhm.
And the operator would put the call through. And then when we would talk to them, we would say hello. And there would be like a long echo. And then they would say hello. And then you got like 30 seconds later. Both my grandparents passed away, but they never met my children for real in person. But they did get to FaceTime. And that was something that was really crazy because I thought about when I was growing up, we were doing the hello.
Yeah.
And it would like eventually reach them.
Well, it's
But then it was
interesting.
like, oh, now they're in front of a screen and they actually got to see them
Yeah.
and they're on the other side of the world, which is, amazing. We didn't grow up
Yeah.
with that.
No, it's interesting you say that too, because technology can be used in so many good ways now. When my father passed away a couple years ago, we used FaceTime to call everybody from the hospital because he was going to be passing away. So everyone could actually say goodbye to him and he could see them. He couldn't talk, but he was able to at least see them. So I think that that's a great point that you bring up about how we've evolved with technology.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with you. And one thing, there's good and bad with technology. The cell phones. That's why there's unfortunately a lot of couch potatoes out there where we used to play in the street and do all this other kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Where we actually had to read, to understand what was happening and stuff like that. Now you can just do it on a phone. And AI, listen, I am definitely a proponent of them. I understand its value, but I do believe in certain areas of the industry, it takes away creativity because it redoes your thinking, especially when you're writing something that's coming from the heart. And you go, you know what? I want to see what AI is going to do that for me. It takes away that soul, the way I look at it, about that real creativity, because you're giving it to a machine to do it for you. And I think that's a big takeaway.
I think with AI, you kind of have to use it to where you're absolutely right. It takes the human touch out of a response. So I can see when something's been written through AI or once it's been written through the human touch and someone's, written it. I think when I use AI to help write things, you always have to go back in and add the human touch to it because it does sound robotic and it is very repetitive. So in situations like that, you do have to make adjustments. I'm sure it'll be more advanced, in 5-10 years from now, with the way that things are. I know there's a lot of fear about AI taking a lot of jobs over and stuff, but I think AI currently is just like an additive tool to kind of just help us get through. And as business owners, I'm all for trying to use it when I can to help with certain things. But I still think that the human eye has to kind of oversee what's regurgitated from AI, because some of it is just like, oh, okay, wait, this sounds good, but it's not completely personalized to your business. So you still have to kind of touch on it, and you can take something that was written in 3 seconds and then put an extra 10-15 minutes versus an hour into your time. But as far as technology in the trucking industry, when we first started, we had to use the maps, the Atlas books, the Mapsco books. We had Mapscos, all kinds of Mapscos. Now we're on the navigation in every truck, ELD, no more paper logging, electronic logging, satellite tracking for your trucks, where we didn't have that when we first started our company. If you lost the truck, it was like, okay, let's see when I can get a hold of the driver. So technology, as far as like on that trucking side of it, has really kind of evolved as well to where we're at today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'll say, like someone I talked to recently, just to close out the AI discussion, because I use Chat GPT sometimes to help me with stuff, because I don't speak the best sometimes when I'm trying to say how I feel in a email or whatnot. But a lot of people have said out there that it's not going to necessarily replace people, but the people that use it, it's going to help those companies and those people, and the ones that don't, they're going to be left behind.
True.
Yeah. I mean, on the technology side, a lot of companies are using AI to help code, on the back end and stuff. And so some of it is good. Some of it is good. You just kind of have to use it, where needed to kind of be to be filler. What I found to be a really good AI versus Chat GPT was Jasper. They're not as big as Chat GPT, but their quality of their outputs, I like a whole lot better. You should look into that one. Kristy and I, there's one thing I can kind of I can relate with you on a lot of things, and that's about being when I'm typing up emails, I'm the worst because I'm going, and you're probably the same way. I'm going at 100 miles an hour, but I don't like to type, because I'm trying to get it done as fast as possible. So I'm usually the worst at emails and text messages because I will send a message, I'll hit send, and then I'll go back and read it. I'm like, oh my gosh,
I'm the same way.
5,000 errors.
Listen, everyone that works for me or knows me. Like, this is Kristy sending misspelled words. It doesn't make sense. At least they get some laughs, I will say.
There's a running joke in my family. There's about like 10 or 15 of us in a group chat. This includes all the nieces and nephews and aunts and uncles, and we're all in one chat, and they all joke about me because my text messages are the worst. They're like, what is she saying right now? Because I do the same thing. I'm always in a hurry and I hit send.
Yeah.
And then you're like, no.
Exactly. Now you can edit.
Have you ever tried Dragon App?
No.
Dragon App is a dictator where you have a microphone and you can start talking into your email, and it writes it for you. You don't even have to touch the keyboard or anything, and then it can go back in there and correct the grammatical errors that come up because it may not have understood what you were saying, especially if you have what do you call it, what's that called when you have a oh my god, not slang or whatever, but depending upon where you came from.
So if you say y'all, it's going to change it to you all.
or something else. Yeah. It kind of understands what you say, and that's why you have to go back and read it. But it's really quick to write, if you write an essay, you could be talking to it, or a quick email or a note to yourself. And you have to say period, question mark, all these different kinds of things that you have to say for it to understand. But it's pretty cool. You should look into it. I've used it for a long time.
You said it's Dragon App?
Dragon App. Yep.
Okay.
I wrote it down. I got 2 new apps to check out now. So I know we're going to be coming up to the end here. We want to get a couple more questions. And I guess my next one would be, I don't know if you talked about it, but why did you choose a career, I guess, in logistics? It's a little bit different. You're doing logistics, but you're doing specifically home delivery, which is, I would say, probably a little bit more challenging than freight in particular. And why do you think that would be a good industry for women to explore?
Absolutely. So I kind of got into it by accident. It wasn't a career path. I didn't really grow up thinking I wanted to be in the trucking industry. I always laugh about it because I love fashion. I love design. I grew up being such a girly girl type of girl that I never thought I would be in the logistics industry. It just kind of happened to be where I fell. I fell into it, but I love it, and obviously I'm still doing it. So there's something there that's kept me here. Would I change that? I don't know. Like today, I feel like I'm in a good place. I love the trucking industry. I know it pretty well, and I'm very confident in what I do. So to kind of start up a whole new career, I do things that I like as hobbies, but do what I'm good at for work. And so this is kind of where I'm really good. Household goods, I have stuck with household goods because this is going to sound really funny when I tell you this, but the money is good. It pays really well. And so sometimes you kind of look at things on a financial, the financial part of things, and you're like, okay, well, this makes sense for me to be here and I'm good at it. So I'm going to continue to do what I know best. And that's why when I did Movers Dispatch Board, I stuck in household goods because I know that industry so well. So it only made sense for me to take something that I already knew a lot about and add tools that other movers could benefit from. So when I'm selling Movers Dispatch Board, I'm able to sell that on a personal level too, because I am a business owner. My client is me. You know, my client is someone who is me in another city, in another state, that I can help and say, hey, look, this tool would have been amazing had we had this, but now we have it. So here you go, try to use it. Right. So I think that that was really kind of why I developed Movers Dispatch Board and how I fell into that position. What was the second part of your question?
Yeah, the second part is, why do you think it would be good for women to come into this industry?
For women, there's so many opportunities in logistics. So you don't only have to be a truck driver, because I think that's the stereotype. Someone thinks that if you're in logistics, you need to be a truck driver. No, there's so many opportunities in logistics. There's opportunities from sales, which I love sales. I'm a salesperson. And I think in any industry, if you're looking to make really good money, be a salesperson. Salespeople make the most money out of any position and most jobs if you're looking to work for a company, because your pay is typically based on your performance. If you do well in what you do in selling, you make that. Some of the top earners are salespeople. So I love sales positions for that reason. I'm very money driven. So I always will do things that I know are money driven, but for women. So you've got opportunities in sales and logistics, accounting, HR. If you want to be in operations, warehousing, dispatching, I mean, the opportunities are endless. Yeah. You not only can be in logistics on the trucking side of it, but you can be on the air freight side of it. You can be at the airport. There's so many different places where you could be in logistics. You can be in brokering. So the opportunities are endless to jobs in logistics. And the thing that I love about the transportation industry, it's never going to die. Nothing will ever really replace what we do.
Right.
So you think about whether it be like, okay, it'll either be air freight, rail, trucks. What else is going to replace those three?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So it'll always be there. It's an industry that's really not going to, there will be technology that will, with the driverless trucks or situations like that. But will that really work? Maybe on the freight side it will. It won't work on household goods because the movers still have to come in and move stuff unless we have robots moving.
I was just going to say, yeah.
It might happen.
It might happen. Yeah, who knows? We're saying it today, but maybe like 20 years from now, it'll be. I would love to recruit some robots. If someone can come up with some robots that can help move people, I will buy some robots for that.
And their salary will be motor oil.
Yes.
Yes. I'm sure at some point we will see that down the road. So, well, we're coming up to the end of our show. And before we end the show, I want to ask you if you could give some advice to women and what advice you would give to men.
Absolutely. So my advice to women is always believe in yourself and never think that because you're a woman that you're not capable and able. So that's the biggest thing. And so believe in yourself and know what you're capable of, and you will be challenged. People will challenge you. Not only men will challenge you, other women are going to challenge you too. So in your career, there will be all kinds of challenges, but you have to believe in yourself and know that you're capable and have the skill set to get to where you want to go. So educate yourself and utilize any tools that are out there to help empower you. If there are things that you don't know, go learn about them. Take a class somewhere, have someone mentor you. There's a lot of opportunities out there. And as far as men, I think that with men, the only advice that I would give to men is just always be supportive of the women that are out there trying to achieve. There are a lot of men that do that and there's men that don't, but I can't say that every man. There's a lot of men out there that are in my life now currently that are always very supportive of me and my goals and that are constantly helping me get to where I want to be. So, and just to continue to find those people in your life, find the people that are supportive, and the ones that are not supportive, send them away.
Yep. And I couldn't agree more. Now, where can people find you if they want to look you up?
So I am on LinkedIn. So definitely, I think that's the best place to find and connect with me is on LinkedIn. I've got both companies profiled and connected on my LinkedIn profile. So you'll see that I have 2 jobs at Condor Moving Systems. I'm a partner there. And then as well as the CEO and founder of Movers Dispatch Board. So I think LinkedIn would be the best place to connect with me. or through email.